Fire is not an emergency, and don't let the urgency of the situation drive your actions. That there's no fire worth putting yourself at risk and jeopardy. And I know it's going to be a little sidetrack here, but I know when I first started, I was definitely an adrenaline junkie. I rock climbed, ice climbed, a little bit of motocross, ski racing. So I liked high-speed stuff, and fire gave me that, continued. And I was young. As I got older, I started to see things in a different light. I have a wife and family, and I have two small boys at home that I had to come home to them. Jeff Allen, who died in the Kramer fire, was a rookie for me in 2000, and so I now have individuals that their lives are my responsibility, and so everybody that comes to work on a fire for me, I want to make sure that they understand the importance of somebody at home is waiting for them to come back in the same condition they came to work this morning. And then while I was at West Fork, I started having friends' children working for me. And so there's a whole new responsibility than what you have as a fire manager, that these aren't just your employees, they're family. These people need to be cared for, and I can't put them out into a situation that is unsafe, any more unsafe than going out on any wildfire is going to be. But I have to make sure that I'm not putting them in a situation where they're going to get themselves in trouble because of my actions. I want somebody that isn't just a firefighter. I want somebody that thinks and is looking around them, looking outside of just being straight Pulaski motorhead. I want somebody that can also come in and open up ArcMap and be able to do some GIS work for me. I want the people that can get into the WIFDIS decision program and help me enter things in there. The entering firefighter, I'm looking for somebody that's a self-starter, right? Somebody that is ready to pick up the dull Pulaski and start sharpening it without being told. I've always been a person that tries to look for something to do. How can I make this better? Not that the wheel's broken, but there might be a little bit of a corner that can still be knocked off to make it run smoother. So if I see that in an employee, I'll encourage that and try to develop that and give them some more challenges to make themselves learn and think. I like to give them the opportunities so that they can take that information and apply it themselves instead of somebody hand-feeding them.
In 1980, after graduating from Unity College in Maine with a Bachelor of Science in Forest Management, Stu Hoyt goes to work as a pre-sale forester on Alaska's Tongass National Forest. In 1985, Stu transfers to the White Mountain National Forest, Androscoggin Ranger District in New Hampshire, where he puts his skills to work as avalanche forecaster, search and rescue coordinator, trail crew foreman, wilderness ranger, and timber marking crew foreman. Stu becomes pre-sale forester for the Powell Ranger District on Idaho's Clearwater National Forest, where he says he whets his appetite for fire. In 1997, Stu signs on as Helitack foreman for Indianola Helitack on the Salmon Chalice National Forest. In 2000, Stu is named AFMO on the West Fork Ranger District on the Bitterroot National Forest, a position he will hold for the next 6 years before detailing in as FMO for 2 years. Stu becomes FMO for the Moose Creek Ranger District on the Nez Perce National Forest. In 2011, Stu was named the Regional Fuel Specialist for the U.S. Forest Service's Northern Region.
At Powell, I really was not only was able to gain a lot of experience with the suppression side, but being in the timber management, I was able to learn a lot more about how the western ecosystems are fire adapted, and all those things came together and just really made life exciting. It was a job where you could be very mindful, not so much thinking side, and using your brain, and also physical, and something that was a good balance for me. For myself, I need to have a good balance of physical activity and mental challenge in order to be balanced. And that's where I found that in fire. The being out in the line, or just being operationally committed to a fire, you have that physical challenge and your top shape. But then the mental challenge of what do we need to do on this type 5 initial attack fire? What do I need to do here? Or as I got more experience, the type 4 incidents, and then the type 3, and how do I manage this fire so that we can take chaos and turn it into something we can deal with and make it organized. My FMO there was Lee Clark. He gave a lot of he showed you need to be grounded on the management side of fire. It wasn't just being out there being operational, but you needed to have some experience on how to keep the program going and putting things together. Byron Bonney, who was the forest fire management officer at the time, was able to direct me into the skills that I should be developing to help me move into the next position. He focused on make sure you go to these classes, make sure you try to get this experience out in the line and work with. Randy Doman, deputy there on the Clearwater at the time. Randy was a great one with a drip torch on prescribed fires, and watching Randy being able to pull fire from one side of the unit to the other to make it a little bit easier for the holding crew was quite a wealth of knowledge. Keeping my eyes on watching the old sages at the time and how they did things. Going into the Hell Attack Foreman position at Indianola was quite a change. We were a rappel crew and very high motivated crew, and they looked kind of askance at this guy coming from a timber background and into their world. It was a bit of a challenge for a while to prove that I knew I had the skills to manage the Hell Attack program and the rappel program, and that I also was someone that they could trust as a incident commander and a fire manager. But it was through being able to lead through example, I think, is where I developed my credentials there and the trust of the crew. I went in there hoping to lead by example, but not just by example, but also by giving them the trust to do things and to let them lead upwards, and giving them a lot of ownership in the program. I might be I'm the masthead, but it's the people that work for you that make the program, and that was what I tried to do with those folks, was give them as much ability and room for them to make the decisions and lead upwards. At times, when I first got there and I tried to give this ownership to them, they thought it was a weakness on my part, and it was a definite two-edged sword there, and I had to get them so that they recognized that I wasn't doing this because I didn't know what I was doing, but that I wanted them to have the ability to be the program. At times you had to, if you saw something going off in a direction you didn't want it, you'd had to stop that and reel it in. And other times you had to give them a direction to go that you wanted. You wanted the program to be going this direction. So here's some things I'd like you to think about and have you work on. It was a very good move for my family and me, career-wise. The Bitterroot, the West Fork District is where prescribed natural fire program started with the Forest Service in 1972. Bad Luck Creek there out in the Selway was where it all began. And I felt very fortunate being able to go from the Salmon Chalice, where we had a fire use program, prescribed natural fire program, but it was there on the Helitack crew, and with most of the suppression resources, it was not looked at favorably. It was they thought it was taking away money, and that fire was bad. It burned up trees and left nothing but destruction in its wake. But hey, coming over to the Bitterroot, it was a place where it was accepted, and it was really, I could see the value of that program. In the previous jobs, our goal was to suppress the fire on initial attack and not let that fire get big. And so when we did have a non-success and we had a fire go to a team, that was the end of my involvement with a lot of those fires, unless the crew, the Helitack crew came in and sat on a helibase and worked on a helibase, and we had that side. Now I had the role of had to work on the management plans. I had to look out in the future on these fires and really start thinking about, where can this fire go? What can this fire do? What's gonna be a problem or a challenge for us? How do I tell the forest FMO that this is a good thing to be doing? I had some really good mentors there on the Bitterroot. Kurt McChesney, FMO when I came there, and Chuck Stanich. Kurt and Chuck really did a great job of helping me see where we needed to draw lines in the sand before where we had to do something different or take another action. Kurt was the one that really made me recognize that fire has a life cycle. It's not every day does it get up and go, and you have those steady progressions where the fire chunks along 10, 15 acres a day, maybe 100 acres, and then you have the big events where the fire is going to get up and woof 1,000 acres. But after that, then it goes back to that steady progression. So Kurt was the first person that taught me that fire wasn't the boogeyman. Make sure that you don't let fire the fire is not pushing you around. Make sure that you're out in front of the fire and that you're watching the subtle cues coming from the fire behavior, that you know when things are transitioning, when things are changing. And with today's culture, where we can do point protection or full perimeter control, is recognize that you don't have to fight fire physically and hard all the time. Use your mind and be smart about how you fight the fire, because today might not be the time to try to do it, and back off, hold on to your anchor point, and keep improving that, and wait for the time to change so that you can then go to work and be successful in your strategy and tactics.